Hey, I'm Trevor, and I love programming. I wanted to share my love with everyone, so I created this channel. So let's get into the lesson. Welcome back, everyone. Today I'll be going over Booleans, if statements, and comparison operators. So let's go ahead and label this section Booleans. It's a weird word. So what is a Boolean? So very often in programming, you will need a data type that can only have one of two values, such as yes or no, on or off, true or false. And that's where Booleans come into play. So in order to use a Boolean, you use the keyword bool, and I'm gonna name mine bool variable a and set it equal to true. So if there's one thing I want you to take away from this lesson, is that Booleans can only be true or false. That's all they can be. They can't be a number, they can't be a string with letters or parentheses with letters or words in them. They can only be true or false. So let's print out our Boolean. And let's run it. So when you run it, you see that it prints out true because Boolean A equals true. So what happens if we change this to false? Well, we'll change it to false and hit run. It prints out false. So it's going to print out whether our variable equals true or false. So let's go ahead and set it to true. Alright, so another thing Booleans can be set equal to is if a statement or expression is equal to true. So to show that, let's just make an integer. Let's say int z equals 1. And so let's get rid of this true. And let's start with some parentheses. So inside the parentheses, we need to put z is equal to, you use two equal signs. For this is called a comparison operator. This is just comparing whether z is equal to whatever we set it to, and we're setting it to 1. So if z is equal to 1, a will print out true or false, whether this expression is true or not. So if we run it, it prints out true because z does equal 1. But if we put the number 2 and run it, the answer or the statement or expression evaluates to false. So that's another cool thing that Booleans can be set to. So now let's get to if statement. If statements are what Booleans are used with, because if statements is if, and then let's put our brackets. So inside this, you're going to get an error because you have to have an expression that results in a true or false statement. So for example, if we put true, say if true, let's say, let's print out, we have used an if statement. And let's print that out. If you print that out, it's going to say we have used an if statement because if is true. So what happens if we change it to false? Well, if we run it, it is blank. And that is because in an if statement, if the expression results in false, it skips the process or whatever is in the if statement's boundaries. So since it is false, it did not print out what we was wanting it to print out. So the main thing if statements are used with that I come into contact with are the comparison operators. So let's go ahead and comment all this out real quick. And we're going to label this integers. And let's create an integer called int a equals 1, int b equals 2, int c equals 3, and int d equals 1 as well. So there. So let's do if a is greater than b, then we'll print out a is greater than b. Now, if you remember in the string interpolation video I've done, we can make this look a little cleaner. So let's do the $sign. And in our bracket, in our statement, let's put the brackets around our variables. So that way it will print out the actual value of our variable instead of just the letter. So now, if A is greater than B, it would run. But since we know 1 is not greater than 2, it's not going to do anything. So if we run it, nothing. But if we change this to less than and make this less than and run it, it's going to print out 1 is less than 2 because we used a string interpolation to call our variable value and we used it with text. So another way to say like this. So if A is greater than D or less than D, and let's change our variable to D, then it would print out. But what happens if they're equal? So this is where we can put an equal sign. So we can do A is less than or equal to our D value, and let's run it. So 1 is less than or equal to 1, which is true. So that's why I printed it out. So let's go ahead and let's copy this just because we're slightly lazy. And let's change this to a greater than sign. And let's do B. Or let's do C if C is greater than or equal to B. So we can do C and B, and we can put greater than or equal to B. And let's run it. And you see 3 is greater than or equal to 2. So that's just a simple way to do that. Now, there are 2 other comparison operators that you commonly see, and that is if, and let's say A does not equal, and let's go back to B, and then let's just copy this, paste it, and say A does not equal, and then our value of B. And then if A does not equal B, it will print out the statement 1 does not equal 2, which is true. So that's how to use the not equals to operator. And the last operator you will see is if A is equal to, like the one I showed you up here, is equal to D. And then we can paste the text from earlier, and then we can put A is equal to our value of D. And then 1 is equal to 1. But if we change this to another variable, you'll see that it doesn't print because it is false. So a quick wrap up of if statements. So let's go ahead and label this. If statements will only execute if the expression results in true. So to wrap up, Booleans can only be true or false. Booleans can be set equal to a statement that results in true or false. And if statements will execute only if the result is true. And most of the time you'll see them in these comparison operators. And let's zoom out a little bit so you can see it. And there. So yeah, just a quick high level overview of Booleans, if statements, and comparison operators. Alright, if you found this video useful, like, comment, and subscribe. Down below will be the notes for this video, as well as a Discord link to where you can ask personal questions, chat with others, and just have a general good time about coding. And as always, have a good one.